There we go. All right, so everyone knows what this meeting is being recorded. I'm talking to you from the other side of the world at the moment. But so I think it's kind of always fascinating to use technology and to figure out how to do it. We used a different video program before, and so now we're trying Zoom, and I think it's going to work out well. But if I hold it down here, you can still see my little picture over there, but you should also be able to see my desktop. The reason that we're here today is to talk about the principal in-basket assignment. I had somebody in the past call it an in-a-basket, principal in a basket, but it's not. The principal is not in a basket. So where this started, it seemed like it started way back in the industrial age as an assessment for mid-managers and to teach them how to do priority management, time management, and to see how they might answer. Some of the original assessments were how they might answer mid-management sort of questions as they came up on their daily task. And so back in the industrial age, they had a basket, and it was called the in basket. And so things went in, the person was supposed to do them, and then they put them in the out basket. We don't have exactly the same thing anymore. And a lot of what we do is on video, is digital. And but when you walk into your classroom, when you walk into your school, the secretary is going to tell you all kinds of things are happening. And you may have a plan for the day, and it just may go out the window because you may have to be doing something else. There might be a fight, there might be a fire, there might be somebody started a fire in the restroom using a hand dryer. You never know what is going to happen on any given day. So because you have somewhere between 100 to 500 individual souls that all have their own objective and they all have their own ideas of what might happen on any given day. So your assignment says the daily life of a principal involves various forms of interactions and problems solving for the diverse members of your school community. And it can be in the community, it can be your in publics or your out publics or your external publics. So in this assignment, we have a set of in-basket items. They contain numerous issues and concerns, and basically you have to put them in some sort of priority order. The reason this takes so long is because you have to actually do each one of the in-basket activities. If you're going to send a message, then you need to write the message. If you're going to go down to the gym and handle a fight, you need to tell me about that. If you're going to call someone, you need to tell me about that. It's a very detailed sort of assignment, and I think a lot of questions have come up because yes, you could just put all of the activities in the priority order, but you have to tell us about what they are, how you're going to handle them, what the outcome was. And I think that's what the directions show. It says your task is to read and take action on all of the in-basket items presented in the linked document below. It says each of the in-basket items requires a separate action. In most cases, you should not merely describe what you would do, but that you also have to do it. So like I said, if you're going to send an email, you need to write the email. If you're going to give it back to your administrative assistant, then you need to describe what your administrative assistant is supposed to do. For example, if you decide to telephone a person or to see a person for the cultural conference, then you need to outline your objectives as well as the main points or questions. You could write the conversation. There's a lot of ways that you could do it, and you can do it in your own style, but you need to complete the task. And I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble. Then it says, after reading all of the items and before you respond, think about how you would prioritize them. So it says either reorder the items in the list to indicate the order in which you would like them to respond, or at the end of the provided list. And the easiest way to do this assignment is to reorder the items and put them in priority order. So What would you do first at the beginning of your day? What would you do second? What would you do third? And put them in that order. It's easier if everyone does it the same way. Not only when I'm grading it, but when I'm looking at it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your items that you prioritize, and for your class, and maybe for all of my classes. I have 4 different classes. I have 65, 70 students. And so what I will do is give you a norm. I'll take a look at all of our classes, and I'll give you kind of a norm. It says, this is what all 70 students said was priority number 1. This will be what all 70 students said priority number 2. And when I do that, it looks like, I'll give you, sometimes it's a range. Sometimes people say, okay, item number 2, and item number 40, or number 13 should be done first. And item number, and so everyone will have a slightly different opinion about that. And so I'd like to give you that kind of feedback. And so that's the way that I can give you the best feedback, is to tell you what 70 other people also said about that same item. All written communication should conform to guidelines presented within the course. And just remind you that we use APA. I haven't been real, detail oriented on the double spacing, but the other things, though, it seems like it would be a lot easier. It's easier for me to read if everything has a 1-inch margin and has a heading at the top, and all of your papers have names on them, and the items are flush left, and if you just go to, I think it may be posted in here. If not, but I'll put it in the next announcement. There's an online version of APA, because APA is used in the College of Education, and that's just what we're all used to. But I'll put it's called the Online Writing Lab, and it's at Purdue University, and you can find it at OWL. It's called OWL Purdue, and then you can put APA after it, and then it'll give you the OWL APA website. But I'll put a link on. I'll make an announcement and put a link on the announcement. Let's see, and that will help out a lot, I think. So all written communication should conform to the guidelines presented within the course to date. In addition, consider the information you have learned about electronic communications. Pay special attention to the tone in an email message or something. And so just like you're reading in the text and we're going through these different exercises, you'll see areas where you'll be able to use that information to create the context of the assignment. When setting these priorities, consider 4 issues. It says consider precedence. If I solve this problem, will it be easier to solve other problems? That's a good one. Urgency. How pressing is the need for action? What deadlines will be missed, and what opportunities will be lost? Perhaps you had a meeting. I think one of your items perhaps you had a meeting with the superintendent, which would be logical on any given day. You might have a meeting with the superintendent, but then some sort of emergency occurs on your campus. And so how do you postpone the superintendent? What do you have to do to take care of that issue? How do you go solve the emergent issue that has presented itself? And then how do you get back to the superintendent? All those kinds of things are the problems that you kind of have to solve in this exercise. And it takes so long to get it completed. It says growth. What is the trend of the difficulty? In other words, when you're looking at the different items, it goes from the most pressing item. What are you using a sense of urgency to establish your priorities? Are you using a sense of not just urgency, but he has precedence, or seriousness? Seriousness is the word he uses, is the next one. Because how important is the goal that is affected by the situation? If you postpone something, what will you have to do to take care of that? So also, let's see. So they want a list, the order of priority, and then also completed the time management work of principal matrix on the last page of the linked document to identify how each activity has either a high urgency, or high importance. So it's just giving a way to prioritize the documents. And then it says review the rubric at the bottom of the assignment. Let's see what we can do here. Down a little bit. And if I open this, you know, if you click the little side on that, it'll open it here on the page. Instead of trying to download every document, you don't have to do that. So it goes through each of these, the document itself goes through each of these scenarios, and it'll tell you item number 1, item number 2, item number 3. So, and then at the end of the document, there we go. So it tells you, gives you this little matrix to complete, and it does it in the order that they are in the assignment, items 1 through 20. And then you can tell me whether it was did it have high urgency and high importance? It's like creating a grid. Does it have high urgency, low importance? Does it have low urgency, high importance, or low urgency and low importance? And you can, and this isn't where you prioritize them. This is just where you tell me about each of the activities. And then what does he do on this page? No, that's all. So on this page, so you need to fill out the time management work of the principal just to show how this works. And you're going to create your own list. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put an example of what I would like to see on how you can prioritize all of these things on one document, like a cover page. And then that will give you a place to say, I would do this one first, this one second, this one third. And then that way, you know, in that way, make it easier for me to give you your feedback. But also, I think it'll be easier for you to see what priority order you have assigned to each one. And then I think you could just take them, resolve each item just like they are, and do them. You could talk about the items and write your scenario and talk about how you would handle it, and create any documents that are needed for each scenario, and then do that for the 20 scenarios. And I will give you a one-page document where you can put them in the order that you would resolve them. So it'll be very logical and easy to do. So that way you won't have to reorder these documents. You won't have to reorder the scenarios. You can just do the scenarios, but you can tell me what order you would put them in, because you're going to have to figure out how you're going to go through the day. So I will put that on the front page. I will send out an announcement with that page. Order document. I had some people ask me also about, so this is an individual document, and this is something each one of you do individually. You'll create your own scenarios. You'll write your own messages and telephone calls and interactions, and you'll submit that at the end of week 5. And so I'm not hearing anything, but do you have any questions about this, about the week 5 activity? It's an individual.
Question I had, good morning.
Hey, Martha, you have to speak up.
Sorry, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Great. One question I had was for the last page in the matrix. Do we just simply put an X where each item falls of those 4 categories?
In the matrix, yes, ma'am. I think that would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. Can you adapt them a little bit to fit your individual school?
Can you, let's see, tell me a little bit more, because I do have a lot of different kind of schools in our.
Yeah, I'm at a private school, so we wouldn't have a superintendent. We wouldn't have that type of organizational structure.
Who is this? Kim Marie?
Kim Marie, yeah.
Yeah. So you might not have the similar organizational structure, but you'll, you, for the assignment to be relevant, I think we need to stick with the assignment.
Okay.
So I think that you can just, at this point, you just pretend you're in a public school and you have a superintendent and all of these things are going on.
That's fine.
Because you're right, because it's in a few of the, I have several people who have private schools, parochial schools, and some charter schools. And so I do have people in different situations, but I think to make the assignment similar to all of those situations, I think you would need to go ahead and do it the way it is.
Okay.
All right, just to clarify, so I was thinking in my brain of like more of a spreadsheet for, you know, what order and then the urgency and then the scenario, but you're going to send the one pager of more of a layout so they'll all be more uniform.
This is so much better. I clicked the wrong button a moment ago. Now I can actually hear you. So it's all very good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now say that again.
So in my head, when I kind of was thinking about this, I was doing more of like a spreadsheet with the in-basket item and then ordering it that way. And then its urgency level and then the scenario with my responses. So like 3 or 4 different columns. But you're sending the one pager so it can be more uniform. So I'll have a format. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, well, you know, I like that, but then I would get your document would be different from everyone else's. So
okay,
that would, right. So, you know, you're going to do this matrix. It's on the back. I'm going to send you a 1-page document that you can tell me what order you would resolve the issues you would put the items in. You just, you can say, if item number 20 is the first thing that you do, it'll be number 1 on this list.
Okay.
Okay. And you can just submit that as a 1-page along with, I mean, it can be the first page of your packet, so to speak. And you just make the whole thing a Word document and turn it in as a Word document. That way it could just be one document.
Got it.
And it might be easier to do that if we'll have, okay, I'll give you the cover page, and then you can, the matrix that he has as the back page on this, we'll make that the second page, and then you'll just go through these items and write down how you would resolve them.
Okay.
I mean, that sounds the most logical to me.
Sounds good.
And I'll put that in an announcement and add a cover sheet.
Do we assume a particular date? Like right now, if this was live, it's summer. Should we assume maybe like in the fall when school's in session?
You can pick any particular date you would like. It can be Halloween, and you know it can be that's all. If Halloween was always a fun day, it's like I worked at every level. I've worked at elementary levels. I've worked at middle school, had an intermediate school where I was an assistant principal, and high school where I was a principal, and I had an alternative school, and so I get that. But Halloween for the older grades, that was always fun because there was always some group of people that needed to act out on Halloween. Different when I was in school, by the way, because when I was in school, it was okay to do all these things. And so, and at the end of the day, we always had a fall festival. So there was a hayride and fire engines and games, and okay, it was a big community affair. And not every community does that these days. Mm-hmm. And so you just have to understand the world has changed. And it's like someone sent me a story today about a pocket knife. I carried a pocket knife for 30 years. So I carried a pocket knife when I was in first grade. So having a pocket knife at school is not such a big deal. Having a pocket knife, an illegal knife now, is a big deal. So having a pocket knife, a legal pocket knife, now depends on your discipline policy, your student regulations. You know, what is actually written down and in code somewhere. Having a pocket knife is not necessarily a threat, but we tend to think of it in a different way than we did. in the 1960s. And so the world is a different place. So we have to think about how things have changed without penalizing people for doing things that are somewhat normal. So if you're living in South Texas or East Texas or West Texas, you're going to have a different response to a pocket knife than if you live in the middle of Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth. So, you know, just different places are going to handle things in a different way. So that's the other thing you need, but you do need to talk. Like if you're in your private school, I mean, you can still consider that the culture and climate that you're answering the questions from, which I think would be appropriate. But in your private school, you may not have a gym, or you may not have you may not have something that one of the questions asks you about. And so you would have to somehow adapt to that. Any other questions about number 5? About this one? And then I'll get that out. Let's see. Well, then let's go to assignment 7 then. See, how do I do that? There. This one. So the parent and community involvement plan. And this is more of a, it could be district-wide, it could be campus for the campus plan. We're going to use the campus level at this point. So it says individually or as a member of a 2 or 3 person team. So I had some other questions over here that people asked about this particular assignment. And one of the questions says, they asked me if I was going to assign groups, and no, I'm not. During the summer, we don't try that because people have different priorities. Some people are on vacation. Some people are traveling that week. Some people are just doing it everything remotely. And so it seemed very, I mean, it's not that you can't do it remotely, you can, but it just seemed more difficult to add people to try to assign people. Rather than that, though, in your particular classes, and I even had some people at one school who happened to be in different sections of the course, and try to work together with other people who are in other sections of the course, which was fine as long as we get permission from the other instructors. If you had all been in my sections, because I'm teaching 4, but it didn't work out that way. So, but that's okay. And the other instructors said it was fine. So the point though is that if you have someone who's like there are always going to be plenty of people from Frisco, from Plano, from Dallas ISD, a few people from Fort Worth, but our contingent seems to come from Region 10 or then the rest of Texas rather than Region 11. It's just the way it is. So but if you have someone else that you know is in a different section, or if you find someone in your section that happens to be from your same school district and you want to work together, then that's fine, you can. Or you can work individually. It's not required to be in a group. It just makes the assignment a little easier to do, by the way. But the assignment is kind of a big assignment. It's cumbersome, and there's a lot of things to put together. And so if you can share the task, then I suggest doing that. If not, though, if you're on the road in Florida and you don't want to, and you want to just do it yourself, then you're going to be fine. But you still have to complete the same criteria. It's not a modified assignment. So, and then each person will submit their team's assignment here. Every person has to submit their own assignment, even if you're working as a group. But just make sure if you are working as a group, put everyone's name on the cover page so I know who worked together. So that just that makes sure that everyone gets credit for the work they do, and that you and also it just as a just to make sure that I don't somehow grade one differently than the other, but it would be I would like to, you know, as long as everyone put in the same amount of work, then we want you all to get, you know, get credit for the work that you did. So let's see. It does say, if working as a teammate, please notify your instructor. And so if you do agree to, just send me an email. Somebody send me an email with everybody's name on it, and telling me that you're working together as a group, and we'll do it that way. So it tells you what competencies are addressed in this assignment, which is competency 2. And the beginning principal knows how to work with stakeholders as key partners to support student learning. And then that's all stakeholders. And then competency 7, the beginning principal knows how to develop a relationship with internal and external stakeholders, including and selecting appropriate communication strategies for a particular audience. And so in the assignment, it's important for this assignment that you use your current school as the school for which you develop or the plan, or if you're working as a group, you just kind of decide what school that you're doing so that you can all be on the same page. If you're doing a school, if you're working as a group and you've chosen your school, you know, you can go to the TEA website and you can pull the profile of that school, and it'll tell you exactly the average attendance for 3 years, and you can look at the number of teachers. You can see how much money they make. You can go there and you can see what the scores are. You can decide what the priorities are, if you need to do a remediation or if everybody's on level. And so you can find all of that information, TEA, on one of the TEA, what's it called, the TAPR, TAPR report. But so here's your fictional school. So if you're not that, you can use your own. Read the directions below. It says examples of completed plans are available below for you to reference. So he did do that from the past. You can also use the fictional school that he's written about in our thing. So it says use the vision from your own school and other school improvement efforts, and develop an explanation of the approaches that you can use to promote community involvement in this vision. Maybe your school is transitioning from a white-collar middle school to a blue-collar middle school, or maybe your school is transitioning from a predominantly white majority school to a diversity school. And so when I first started teaching back in 1985, a long time ago, I started in Houston ISD, and I had a school that was transitioning from a white middle class school to a Hispanic community. So as the community transitioned, the students attending the schools transitioned. And so then we had, at that time, there was a war in Central America, and we had students from El Salvador and Nicaragua and all of the Ecuador, and all of the students, all of the countries that were there in Central America, Panama. Then I would have a few students from Mexico. Some of my students had never been to school really a day in their life, and other students were on grade level but spoke Spanish. And so it kind of just depended on, their individual scenario. And so helping them all come together and participate in class and so on was our challenge. And so I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about the Hispanic community that I probably never would have known. So it was a good experience for me. But I went out to every quinceanera. I went out and knocked on every door, learned very bad Spanish, but that's okay. And so, but but made my impact on the community, and then they made their impact on me. So it was a reciprocal relationship, and we all had a lot of fun. And after I started doing those things, I hardly had ever any trouble in the classroom. So it was amazing how much that affected the learning that was going on in the school. So those are the kinds of things that you need to be aware of. It says, describe ways to create community partnerships, increase parent involvement, community support. And what we do know about parents is if they don't feel welcome in your school, they won't show up. So your parents need to feel welcome, and so you kind of create a plan that might help them feel welcome. The plan should have a timeline consistent with the school's calendar, include specific activities and actions for each month. Look at the timeline, the person's responsible for who, in other words, who is responsible for the strategy, and the intended audience, and then a budget. So things that you might do. Maybe you are going to have a fall festival. So, and then who's responsible for that, and how are you going to build that into your plan? So, and then who's going to be responsible for it? How are you going to show actions and activities that will capitalize on the diversity of the school, and how are you going to promote communications and get the parents involved? So let's see. Some people have created, tabular versions. Some people have created narrative versions. In addition, it says identify at least one possible community resource that could support student achievement, solve school problems, and achieve school goals. It says finally discuss ways your school is a part of a larger economic, cultural, political, social, and legal context, and how you will engage parents and community members to advocate for improved policies and laws that benefit your students. So how do you do that? And so you work together to build a plan. So let's look at one of these. Here's an elementary school plan. One of these examples they gave us. So in this particular plan, they create, here's your vision statement, here's your mission statement, here's the goals your plan is going to address. And then, sorry, if I get it to go back. And so then they created a grid, a table, so to speak. Here's the event, here's the audience, here's the timeline, here's the parties that are responsible for the event, for putting it on, organizing it, and all that sort of thing. And then is there a budget? They put free. I would say that Meet the Teacher Night is not necessarily free. Somehow, if you want people to come, you may want to have pizza night or something along with it. You may want to serve them dinner. And it kind of depends on your community. But in this case, it was free. And they said, Meet the Teacher Night. And so they gave you a definition of what Meet the Teacher Night was. Parents are welcomed at the school to come and meet their teacher. And then teachers' expectations and so on are identified in the classroom. And so you have to figure out how you're going to organize that, what the teacher's going to do while they're in the classroom with the parents. Here's your audience, parents and students. Here's the timeline. Here's the person's responsible. And in this case, the budget was free. So, and the next one is math and science night. So, they went on and they created a year's worth of different things. They had a PTA rally. They had food and clothing drives. They had an angel tree. They had Mod Squad and Watchdog Luncheon. Tell you what those, and then they describe what those are. They had a spring carnival, a dig and bike rodeo. That sounds like fun. Business Education Day, graduation and awards. So, and then these are the people who were business partners for each of those days. Like they were going to collect food for the North Texas Food Bank. Raising Cane's, we offered food for an event for the PTA meeting. CCA and the North Star Dentistry. So these are the people that partnered with them to help sponsor the events, and probably some of the reasons they were doing the events. So then you have all of these activities going on. So let's see at the end. Didn't they do a summary? Yes. So it was interesting when sitting down with my principal, she stated that many of these events have been successful and at her prior school. That's why they don't. So you'll come up with your own statement of purpose and summary at the end. So I think that this is, you have a valuable opportunity here to create something that you could use. I think that's why we're asking you to do it with people either that are in or around your district or in a similar situation that you're in, or individually from your own perspective. Any questions? And does this all sound doable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you enjoying the class?
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, I'm glad I'm reading all of your things that I don't always participate in every discussion, but if I do read them and if I see something that's not going the right direction, I promise you'll know about it. But otherwise, I'll kind of let you have your own discussion about the material as we go through the class. A lot of you have the assignments I've been reading are really fascinating. I really enjoy reading them. The stories that you're saying, telling me about your schools. I try to provide some context to that as we go through. And let's see. Does this take me back? No. I don't know. Okay. Maybe if I just click on that. I don't know. So hi. No, I'm just trying to see how do I get back to just talking to you. So, but anyway, I'm not sure. So, the control panel on this thing is different than the control panel on the old other program that we used. So anyway, so we're at the point where in the class where you've had a couple of assignments. You've had 2 weeks worth of assignments. You should know that we should know what we're expecting in terms of the assignments and the discussions and everything is getting turned in. Assignments seem to be going fairly well, but these 2 major assignments just are a lot of work, and we just want to make sure that your questions are answered and that you get as much done as you can. So, so the rest of it is, it's 6:43 here in Georgia.
Mhm.
So it was raining this morning, but now it's been a beautiful day ever since. So this weekend I went out. This weekend we went to the Opera House here. We went to see La Traviata. I haven't seen La Traviata in a long time. So that was quite an interesting opera, but very well done. And then what movie I saw one of the new movies. Oh, I saw the new Marvel movie. I saw Phoenix, Dark Phoenix. So I found an English showing of Dark Phoenix, and so I went to see Dark Phoenix the other day. So, but there's a lot of things to do while I'm here. I try to take a little time off and go do that. But the first week of July, I'm going to the city of Batumi, But I'm going to speak to doctoral students, and we're going to do a week-long thing on research methods and go through dissertation format. And I know it's all boring, but we're going to go through dissertation format and research methods and talk about formatting and talk about how they can get their papers published, because just like everywhere, if you're a doctoral student, then you have to publish papers. And so, but these are also education students here in Georgia. And the Georgia education system is a little bit different than ours, but but they've had this modification between the European system and the American system, and it seems to work fairly well. So they do have 12 grades. Oftentimes they'll be all in the same school, and they'll have and they do create community schools. And so and then to finish high school, you do have to take a major comprehensive exam, so in the 12th grade. And some people spend their whole 12th grade year just studying for that exam. And so so that part is a little bit different than what we do. And so there's the school leaders are usually a school director instead of a principal, and so only a slight change in title. The school system is nationalized rather than having independent school districts like we have in Texas, and the curriculum is set up also as a national curriculum, like Texas. Georgia's not quite as large as Texas. I think it has a population of maybe 3.5 million. There are 5 million people around the world that speak Georgian, and in that respect, it's kind of a small country. But the eastern side of Georgia is a lot like Texas. It's a lot like West Texas. It's flat. They raise cattle and have a lot of, and then have mountains along on the ridge, on the edge of everything. So if you look off in the distance, you'll see mountains, which are called the Southern Caucasus Mountains. But if you'll look off in the distance and see mountains, but if in eastern Georgia, it just resembles Texas. And the further south you go, the closer you get to Turkey, and the hotter it gets. And so the further north you go, the closer you get to Russia, and the colder it gets. So I look forward to going to the Black Sea, so we can just avoid the hot and the cold. So we'll see it that way. If you're interested, I'll post some pictures every once in a while of what Georgia looks like in an announcement. That's probably the easiest way to do it. I thought about doing a discussion post, but I would have to create a whole new discussion post, and decided that it would be hard to access. It's hard to access in Canvas. It's like trying to find that one discussion where you're supposed to ask questions. It's easier just to send me an email. So it's just than to find that discussion area. So anyway, but it's always a great learning experience. I'm trying to find a way to get a grant so that I could bring some Georgian teachers to Texas and then some Texas teachers to Georgia. I think that would be a valuable learning experience to share that and to hear a completely different language, because it's so completely different that it's nothing like Spanish. It's nothing like English. It's not a Romance language. And so the culture changes. I think that is what brings diversity full circle and helps us with what we're doing in our schools back in the States. So I enjoy talking with you guys. You know, you can call me or email me anytime. I don't mind if you have questions. But otherwise, let's see. If I click on this, since you're still seeing my desktop, right? Mm-hmm. Then here's everybody's section. So I have all these sections, and so like I said, I have about 70 students this summer. which is a very nice group of kids. Because you notice we still call them kids. Whoever our students are, we always call them kids, even though you range between 25 and probably 50. But that's okay. So, so anyway, anything else I can help you with? Anything else I can tell you? Answer question? Anything? Well, then I appreciate it. We'll let you go for the night, and everybody have a wonderful night. I really appreciate you being here.
All right. Take
Yeah.
care.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.